Have you ever had a job in a large American city where you had to sit in traffic every morning to get downtown? Did it make you stressed to start your morning this way and remind you why you like the quiet suburban life more than the chaotic and dense city? Have you ever even thought how much time you waste commuting every day? According to the Census Bureau, Americans on average spend almost 30 minutes commuting to or from work. That's an hour each day, or 5 hours a week in time lost on average. When the pandemic hit, the work from home revolution began, and it was amazing. People who could do their jobs remotely reported more satisfaction, higher productivity levels, and more free time. Companies could also save money by not having to pay for office facilities and other costs associated with maintaining an in person workplace. So, what was the problem? Well, it was these. These massive and uninspiring towers were already leased on a several year period, meaning that the companies were obligated to continue paying rent. They couldn't just stop because their employees weren't coming to the office. Money talks, and so many companies began vehemently opposing work from home once the pandemic started to subside, some even threatening to fire employees who refused to come back to the office. But people knew what coming back to the office meant. It meant more of this. So, why and how did everything get so bad in American cities to begin with? Well, it starts with what our conception of a city actually is. When Americans think of a city, they often think that it's the place they go to work. We live in the suburbs, we work in the city. Maybe we also have an entertainment area in the city with bars we go to, but that's about it. This is a flawed perspective, and frankly, not how the rest of the world views cities at all. The rest of the world views cities as places to live and work. These things aren't mutually exclusive. In fact, by combining the two, we're forced to build cities that are both workable and livable. If we view cities in the American fashion, we don't have to make cities livable environments necessarily, because they're mainly just for work. This view, of course, leaves us with ugly and lifeless cities. Here, for example, is my home city of Minneapolis. Once you get downtown, you're dominated on all sides by massive, uniform towers, owned by large banks and corporations, almost looking down on you. There's not really any creativity or culture here, just large rows of windows and glass. This isn't a place anyone wants to be. I mean, look around. There's practically no one on the streets. There's just these huge towers and nothing else. It's completely lifeless. Heck, if this is all cities are, then I wouldn't like them either. But this isn't how cities should be. Here are some random images of European cities I found on Google Maps, just picking random streets and city centers. Notice how much more lively and livable these places seem? It's because in Europe, it's a priority to actually make their cities livable. That's why everyone loves being in the city in Europe and doesn't view it as a chore just to be there. There are so many more benefits than just aesthetics, though. You have a community. You have walkable environments where you can save money by not spending so much on gas. Local businesses have more opportunity to thrive because of increased local foot traffic. What I mentioned before about entertainment districts in American cities applies too. If you have to drive into the city to go to a bar, that just increases the chances of drunk driving, which we know causes all kinds of problems and even many deaths. If you have a bar just down the street from you, it eliminates even the thought of driving drunk. And it really becomes something you can actually be proud of. You can build culture, art, focus on making great places, rather than just rank and file corporate offices. Why would we want our cities to be like something from a dystopian future movie? I mean, they kind of already are. These places are inherently built on deception. From a distance, it might look pretty, especially with the lights at night. But once you're actually in them, it's dirty and dark. And when you center a city entirely on the massive offices that occupy it, the economy also becomes dependent on them. So when people stop coming to the offices, the businesses around them die. It's a domino effect that has devastating consequences. But imagine if the city was instead filled with living spaces and not just offices. Then it could actually be lively and thrive regardless. We shouldn't accept this as Americans. We shouldn't have to take a vacation halfway around the world just to be in a nice, livable city. It's beyond time that we put our foot down and say enough is enough. Our cities are just bad. There's no way around saying that. But what we can do is improve them in the future. Especially now, following the work from home revolution, there's been many talks about what to do with these offices that don't see workers return. Well, it just so happens that there's also a severe housing shortage in America. So many have suggested the idea, why not just convert these places into apartments? It's an idea that's gaining traction and will likely become popular going forward. We can advocate for livable cities, and you know what? Once people actually start living in cities again, instead of coming in from far out suburbs, change will be forced to happen. In fact, the more livable cities become, the more housing developers and local businesses can make as well. Money, of course, will talk in that manner as well. So, whether we end up working from home or not, we need to change how we view the city in America. Now is a great time to change things, based on the struggles we've recently faced. And maybe in the future, our cities can too become the envy of the world, and not somewhere we avoid like a plague.